Hi everyone. I've done a little project that I'd like to share with you. The project is upgrading a existing conduit with a new Ethernet cable. I'll share the background of my reasoning once this video ends. So the situation that I was in is there was an existing Ethernet cable that needed to be replaced. So the first step was removing the conduit access covers. So PVC conduit has sort of a rectangle shape with usually 2 screws on it that you can access for future maintenance when you're installing PVC conduit and then running the cables that the conduit's protecting. So I removed these on both my home and then the shed as well. That's going to become an office once the renovations are completed. After this, I pulled the Ethernet cable through the wall, and the wall that I'm talking about is the shed. And then I used my orange string and electrical tape to add about a 45 centimeter or 18 inches length of string to the Ethernet cable so that the string was attached to it. My plan was to put the existing cable back into the conduit once this was done, and while I was pulling the wire out, at the same time the new Ethernet cable would come into it. So I first got the tape on the Ethernet wire and the orange string, and then I did the same thing now with about 60 centimeters or 2 feet of length of the new Cat 7 Ethernet cable. The reason for the double up is to hopefully provide an extra layer of security so that the cable won't come loose or free from the string that's pulling it through. Now I had to make a Y-type shape. So if this is the original cable, I brought my string and joined it like this, sort of as you would pull it along. But with the new cable going in, I had it going on the same direction as the string because it'd be entering that way through the conduit. So it formed a Y shape where the 3 sort of edges are orange string. This is the existing Ethernet cable, and then this represents the Cat 7 cable that I was putting into the conduit. When I did this in 2006, I had only needed a smaller cable, so it immediately became obvious that I needed to remove the crimped on RJ45 connections. So I took my metal cutters and just cut them off. It's no big deal, I can crimp them again. I've got the tool here to do so. And then you just follow the wiring guide to do so. It's a bit fussy work, but it works, and it's what's needed practically for my application. There wasn't enough space with the sheathing on the Cat 7 cable for it to join in with the extra width that the RJ45 ends occupied. The process of starting the pull of the Cat 5 cable through was first a means of lining up the existing Ethernet cable and then having the new one also lined up, so it was about ready to go down into the conduit. So I had to do some initial tugs on the house end, that's where the wire's coming from, so that it would start pulling it back through over here as I was pulling it up on the other side. After the initial few tugs, I went back to where it was feeding in to check for alignment, that things weren't getting sort of tangled and that I wasn't forming like a twisted loop over the Ethernet cable as it fed down. And it's something you need to constantly monitor for when you're fishing a new Ethernet cable through. So what I found that works is just slow, gentle, but consistent tugs pulling the wires through. And with the gentle motion, I didn't really have problems with it getting stuck. What did happen was sort of a U shape, or we could say like this, formed where it was going to not fit at the entrance that was feeding the cable in. So I had to go back and forth a few times to straighten it out as I was feeding it. It would have been easier if there was a two-person job, but with my physical challenges, I get a lot of enjoyment and feel rewarding when I'm able to get something done. So I just kept feeding it through, and eventually the Cat 5 cable was all the way through, and with a little bit more of a pull, so was the new Cat 7 cable. At that point, I removed the tape so that the Cat 7 cable was free, and I wanted to get the Cat 5 cable back in there as a backup. So I got the Cat 7 cable in place where it's gone through the house wall. And then, of course, how I pulled the Cat 5 cable back through was with the orange string on the other building. And it was the same thing as when I was pulling it the other direction. Slow, steady, fluid motions is what worked well. You do have to be mindful and keep your eyes that little kinks aren't forming, like the wire just sort of got twisted, and correct them as you're going along. But it was just a matter of pulling it back through, and the length of the string gave me a good idea of how much further it had to come. And then once that was done, I got the tape off of it and pushed it back through the wall. And the final step I didn't take a picture of is when I'll be recrimping the end of it. But if you're into networking, it's a straightforward process, and I find it easy to do. So why the upgrade? It stems from the goals for my life. And there's a lot that's been going on in my life. Ultimately, I'm trying to become self-employed and no longer require the physical disability pension that I receive. I only have a few good hours each day, so the internet's a really good fix or match for me in this aspiration, because the internet's consistent where I have to be taking care of my health and can't ignore my health. So when I put the conduit in initially, the Cat 5e cable was what was sold in 2006. Now a Cat 6 cable would also be more than sufficient. I just happened to have points available and only was required to pay for shipping and tax on the Cat 7 cable. So I thought to myself, I may as well put it in there. The sheathing on it, that's the plastic on the outside, is much thicker and it'll perform well in the long term. You do have to have the switches that supports the 10 gig capacity, between the two buildings. For me, it means that my home network, video surveillance, the backup servers in the two different buildings, and the voice over IP phone and video streaming isn't going to impact the website usage for hosting the websites myself. So it's a matter of quality assurance for the people that I'm trying to reach out and support, and then the online store that I plan to build into this. So I'm planning ahead for my future and trying to make the best decisions possible. This was about a 90-minute process. I'm not really convinced that it would go any faster for you if two people were doing it. it may save like 10 minutes, but it's just something you do just a little bit at a time. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you think about your network and what you need for it and you take care of it, it can then provide what you're needing in day-to-day life and support whatever your aspiration is in life. Thanks so much for this time that you've spent with me today. Bye for now.